Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Bengal Tiger podcast. I am Billy Embody. With me is Shea Dixon, as always. Appreciate you guys being here with us. We've got the hot button discussion topic of the year. Rankings. It's always rankings when it comes to the best debate really on our site. Maybe a little quarterback discussion as well. But Shea, the rankings discussion for the summer is now squarely here with the updated on 300 for the 2024 recruiting class. And let's lead off with the biggest news of the update. And that is that DeSean McBride, the four-star commitment, moved all the way up from outside the top 100. He now sits as the number 63 overall prospect in the country for On3, the number 6 safety nationally, and the number 3 prospect in Louisiana. That makes On3 the highest on DeSean McBride overall out of the ranking services. Let me get your reaction to this one, Shea, because I think when we left LSU Elite Camp and that Friday night setting in Tiger Stadium, we all left saying, oh my gosh, DeSean McBride truly is the real deal. He did it on the field as a junior. He backed it up with testing numbers. But then he really looked comfortable out there at that safety position.
No doubt. I mean, at 6'3", 200, probably a little north of that now as he gets ready for his senior year. You're talking about taking this back to when LSU was recruiting guys like Jamal Adams, Delpit, to throw it back to a decade ago, guys like Eric Reed. He is a big-time player coming out of the state of Louisiana here. And really, you look at it, Billy, number 6 safety in the country, Charles Power, who runs our rankings. You actually have an in-depth piece with a lot of his thoughts. We've gotten thoughts from Cody Belair, who's on the rankings team. These guys have been scouting for more than a decade now, and they, without hesitation, said McBride might have some of the best, if not the best, upside of any safety in the class. So we're looking at a kid who could wind up being the number 1, 2, 3 safety in the country across the board with recruiting sites and everybody's rankings. So this was one where, and I mentioned this week on the site, on the Bengal Tiger, whenever LSU offered and got him committed, he had just cracked into the On3 top 300. He was like the number 26 or 7 safety in the country. So it was a really nice 4-star ad. I think very much like we did with Whit Weeks, I think people are going to look up down the line and say, oh, whoa, this guy finished as one of the top 3 or 4 players in the class that we ended up signing. He wasn't celebrated like that when the domino happened, but now fans are starting to see how quickly he can climb in the rankings. He's no doubt going to be one of their top 5 biggest signees.
Yeah, and I look at that safety group that is on 3 as far as the rankings go, and I've seen a good number of the guys in the top 10 actually. And you look at KJ Bolden up there; he's a 5-star plus prospect. LSU recruited him a little bit out of Buford, where Paul Mabenga went to school. But outside of KJ Bolden, I'm with you, Shea. I think he has a really strong case in DeSean McBride to move up. You look at that combination of the size, the production. If he goes out there for his curtain call as a senior and shines once again, and who knows, maybe he gets an all-star game type invite, I think he's got a chance. And we were asked this on the board, does he have a shot at a 5-star? I really think whenever you're in the top 100 entering your senior year, you have the chance to move yourself up into that conversation. You can certainly drop down a little bit, or you can stay the same. I think he's got a real shot.
Yeah, no doubt. And you look, if you're watching on YouTube, KJ Bolden, the number 1 safety in the country, is heavily considered a Georgia lean, is a 98 rating. When you get to the number 2 safety in the country, that's a big drop, 95 rating. So with 4 guys, including McBride, sitting as 94 ratings, there can be a lot of fluctuation from 2 to really 10 in the top 10 safeties. For McBride to already jump into that middle of the pack group before his senior year, that's a big deal for him. So I do think we're looking at a guy who's going to finish as a top 5 safety. I feel confident in that.
Yeah, that you have that group there in the 49 to 65 range that's really jockeying for that opportunity to move up. And we've seen some guys in that group trim back a little bit. Xavier Filsame was a little bit higher up. earlier this cycle, but now sits there in that 57 range. He had committed to Florida and was one of those guys that LSU was after too. But I think DeSean McBride's rise is not surprising with his size, his athleticism, production, all those things that check the box that you want to see. So LSU clearly got a good one there in DeSean McBride, got him on board early. I do want to note, Shea, and we'll move on to the next guy here. Joel Rogers did slide up a few spots overall. Nothing crazy, nothing to really share as far as him being a massive riser. But when it comes to the safety position, and Charles was telling me this, that they did a deep dive on it. They like that physicality. They like his testing numbers that he has. They like that he plays offense too. He plays quarterback for West Feliciana. So they move him up a little bit. He's got a chance, I think, in terms of where I see him just personally. I think he's kind of a top 125, 150 range guy with the chance to maybe move up even higher.
Yeah, and I think right now you saw him climb the safety rankings. He's 16 right now. He could be on 3. He could be a top 10 safety when this is all said and done. There is a realistic path with DeSean McBride and Rogers alone for LSU to finish with 2 of the top 10 safeties. And I'd feel comfortable saying 2 of the top 15 safeties in the country. That's a perfect haul. And you got them both from Louisiana. That's exactly the recipe you want if you're LSU.
No question about it. And one prospect we haven't even talked about really, but he is a cornerback on 3, and that's Wardell Mack, who moved up even higher into the top 20 overall prospects. He's now the number 3 corner nationally, number 2 prospect in Louisiana behind 5-star Dominic McKinley. I mean, LSU's kind of recruited him at safety too. He could be like a JV and Toviano where, we caught a little bit of flack last year for having JV and Toviano, evaluated as a safety, but lo and behold, there he is already being moved around at LSU, despite being, originally at a, as a corner for LSU, but evaluated as safety. I'm interested to see if we'll move Wardell Mack at some point over to that safety spot.
Yeah, and I'm fine with him staying at corner. I think he's athletic enough to play both. Colleges like him at both. I like the Toviano comp. He could do either. There are a lot of kids these days at DB who are so athletic and aren't afraid of contact and all of these things to where they can play safety or corner. And they can be a boundary corner. They can play nickel. Like, there are some versatile kids now coming through high school football. And we saw it with Toviano last cycle. I think Wardell Mack had that person this cycle, especially when you consider he plays both sides of the ball right now. He'll do return game. Like, anything you want, he's just a football player. So if he can get to the field quicker at safety, he would do it. If it's corner, he'll do it. I think that was one thing people are kind of overlooking right now, just because LSU does not have commitments from him and signing day's a while away, that Dominic McKinley and Wardell Mack are 2 top 20 players on 3 right now. They're from Louisiana. Obviously, LSU's in it for both of them. But if you're able to come away with those guys, that's what pushes your class into top 5 range, is when you get a Zalance Hurd and, name another. I can't remember who it was last year. And Shelton Sampson. Shelton Sampson was a 5-star on the composite. That if you can land not 1, but 2 guys who are 5 stars and from Louisiana, that's what really pushes you up. You'll handle the rest of the business, which is locking down Louisiana. We see it right now. Billy, with the latest on 3 updates, the industry rankings now, 7 of the top 10 in Louisiana are committed to LSU. The other 3 are uncommitted right now, being Wardell Mack and Dominic McKinley, and then Tylen Singleton, the linebacker up at Manny. But you're doing what you have to do there, and you're going to pop out-of-state guys. Ethan Callaway, most recently from North Carolina, top 100 guy. But if you want to really push it up to the top with potentially a top 5 class, a top 6 class, not even counting in a guy like Colin Simmons, not even counting any out-of-state guys like DeSean Womack a year ago, you get 2 in-state 5 stars, you'll be in that conversation.
Yeah, no question about it. And that's where LSU obviously has to buckle in with those guys and get them on board to push that class up even higher. LSU, by the way, did move up in the rankings, the team rankings from On3's update. So there you go, guys. Moved up from 13 to 12. This is that time of year where we always get the conversation about camp. How are you ranking kids? How are you evaluating them? Well, colleges are doing it too. And the next 2 guys that we moved up to both 89 ratings, Kylan Billiat and Michael Turner, both committed to LSU after the month of June, where they earned their offers at camp. Now they both sit there, as you see Michael Turner here, with that ability to maybe find their way into 4-star range. Personally, I think Billiat has that a little bit more so than Michael Turner, just because I don't think Turner is going to be as showcased in that John Curtis offense. But we moved both of those guys up because of how good they looked in their camp showings when both earned offers.
Yeah, and I like the move here a lot. So an 89 rating is right on it's the highest you can be as a 3-star, and it's really reserved for guys who are right on the 4-star cusp, that you want to see them play as seniors. You want to see how they look beyond just what they did as juniors and then how they worked out in the summer. And I think when you look at Billiat, who was on a team, coming out of Homa, Terrebonne, that just wasn't that great last year. Then you look at a guy like Michael Turner, who, if you're on YouTube watching, this is his workout at LSU when you're in the offer. He's in that veer offense, like you just talked about, that John Curtis. We went through this with Malachi Dupre a decade ago. Those guys aren't going to get the ball a lot in high school. So you want to have them in workouts like this where you get a feel for what they would do in your offense, and making those guys both top 10 players in Louisiana, the number 1 and 2 receivers in Louisiana, which is what they are now on 3, but also then setting up for where, hey, look, a year ago as juniors, you guys are, for instance, on Michael Turner, I think he caught 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. You look at Billiat, he had 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Those aren't blow you away 4-star receiver numbers. They're not out there putting up 800, 1,000 yards a year, but they have the opportunity to show as a senior that they can make that jump, that they'll have better stats, that they have more production, that they're really developing into really good football players before they take off for college. I won't be surprised if one or not both end up 4 stars. It won't surprise me.
Yeah, and I think both have interesting cases to make that argument that with good senior seasons they can end up being 4-star prospects. Just their speed, their top end speed especially, and I think all the different things Kylan especially brings to the table, that would be a really, really good opportunity for him to take advantage of a senior year and bump up into 4-star range. Another guy who's now, I would say, squarely within striking distance. I'm intrigued to see how high he goes. Ori Williams, the LSU 2024 offensive tackle target out of San Marcos, is now an 88 rating on On3. He's a top 40 overall offensive tackle nationally now on On3. I think that makes On3 the highest on him as well, although I'll pull up his profile and confirm that. But he's somebody that I went out and actually ESPN has him in their ESPN 300. So ESPN kind of leading the way as far as how high you have Ori Williams. But after going out and seeing him in his spring game, I sent that tape over to Charles and Cody. And look, I mean, he's a guy that checks the boxes from that length, from that true size that you want as an offensive tackle. He plays basketball as well for San Marcos. I think he's still very raw, and you see him kind of going, through some of these, pass sets, especially during against his teammates. I want to see what he does as a senior when he gets matched up against maybe some guys that are a little bit higher caliber than some of his teammates are in their spring game here. But if he can put that together, he might be a guy to watch for 4-star watch as well.
Don't be dogging the teammates, Billy. They're out there grinding, man. They're doing all they can in spring ball. I'm with you. I think that Ori Williams too, one thing to remember, and we've talked to sources about this, you talk about upside with offensive linemen, and I'll buy into Brian Kelly. If he sees upside in a kid, I'm there, because I've seen what he did at Notre Dame. He knows how to recruit and develop offensive linemen, and them making the offer to Ori Williams, who at the time was really kind of just a mid 3-star that didn't have a ton of offers. They got on him. Now his recruitment's blown up a bit since then. He's got big offers in Texas, LSU. Others have joined the mix. Florida's still trying to push for him. So he's certainly a well-known commodity now. But when we've talked to sources, like if, for instance, let's use LSU for an example, Billy, when you're in the summer, yes, there's 100 offensive tackles out there that have been recruited by Power 5 schools, or, more than that, whatever it might be. Well, realistically, even for an LSU, you're in on half that group, and some of them commit and go elsewhere. And when you go to reset the board in the summer, you've got a good feel for 10 guys, 12 guys that you're really either have committed or you're still in on, or you wish you could push to flip. And Ori Williams for LSU is ranked on the very high end of that. they think long-term he's going to be as good as some of these guys who are carrying a top 150, top 100 rating right now. So don't let the 3-star here fool you. And more so than anything, I think that's on the offensive line is true, because guys can just be raw, like you said, but good athlete, not a lot of bad weight, can move well. That's what Brian Kelly and Brad Davis can work with. And it's on them then, and obviously on a kid like Ori Williams to develop. And then you've got a multi-year starter. So like a Palma Benga last cycle, like a even Tyree Adams last cycle, there'll be offensive tackles and offensive linemen they get that aren't the highest ranked. They're not the 5-star, but LSU's got a good bit of confidence that, hey, this guy fits what we're looking for, and that's Ori Williams.
100%. Also a great kid too. I don't think, Brian Kelly and his staff realize just how good of a kid he is. I mean, I know they know it, but he's just so personable. I mean, we got to catch up with him a little bit. He's very, very just, kind of like almost happy-go-lucky, and that's just kind of how he is. So I enjoy Ori Williams just as a guy too, getting to know through his recruiting process. And he says he wants to make a decision during his senior season. And, my pick's in on LSU. I think LSU is the clear-cut favorite. I think they'd also like to get him back to campus to make sure things are still in good shape, because there's been some buzz that he is going to visit Florida at the end of the month. I've reached out to him to see if that's true. Obviously, Florida did swing Marcus Maskell away from LSU, so they want to avoid that again, because they really do think Ori Williams is one of the best offensive linemen in the tackle side of things in the country.
Yeah, let's give the quick story here at camp. This massive 6'7", 285-pounder comes jogging over, and he's talking. And I think said something to him first and said, "Do you know Billy?" And he said, "Of course, a guy will drive all the way to San Marcos to see me play a 3-star and video me," and was joking around with us. But he was very weird. Buda, San Marcos, wherever you had to drive, big old Ori Williams was very excited about it. I think it was you and then some college coaches who managed to find themselves out in San Marcos that weren't going there to go tubing, that were strictly going there for Ori Williams.
Yeah, I wish I could say I floated the river, but it was a little bit of a drive in. So maybe next time, or get some golf in down in that area. We'll have to plan that one, because he does want to make that announcement at one of his games, either before it or after it or something like that. So,
well, there was an infamous recruiting writer who went to the Six Flags pool party with all of the Texas A&M recruits one time. Maybe you should go float the river with Ori Williams and get us an interview. The scoop.
We can do some content once, if he is in fact an LSU Tiger, get him on campus. I don't know about an NIL deal, but you see some of those ride along pieces or whatever. And
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. A float along with Ori Williams.
We'll do a float along with Ori Williams, but let's get out of the recruitment first before I lose my job. The big news of the week, though, I think on this podcast is, Shea, we have a new sponsor that we're working with. This is exciting stuff. I don't know if you guys have heard about Birddogs, but Birddogs are really right up my alley. I think they're right up Shea's alley, Maddie B's. We all just kind of work in very casual wear. And one, Birddogs, they bring it when it comes to these really comfortable shorts, joggers, pants. And they have this like sweat wicking and really keeps you cool liner for most of their shorts. And
I'm actually wearing mine.
Okay, so Shea is modeling his a little bit there. Yeah. And these just came in, and I can't be happier with them, first of all, because this is just kind of my style. Yeah, you get the liner there, and really they're so comfortable. And another thing I like too on them is this little zipper right here. They've got a couple of them on there, and you can really just like throw keys in there, camera SD cards in my case, like when we're out at games or camps. But we've got a new promo with them. You can get a free Yeti tumbler, like Shea showed you guys, from Birddogs when you go to their site and use either promo code Tigers or go to birddogs.com/Tigers and get that free Yeti tumbler. If you go to the link, birddogs.com/Tigers, it'll be automatically added. Trust me, I love the Birddogs. I had some other brands of shorts that I usually wore at the games, but now I'm on the Birddogs train, and we think you guys will be as well. So thank you to Birddogs.
Yeah, shout out to Birddogs. They're hooking up with a few On3 sites that we're kind of helping them out. They're helping us out. They sent us a bunch of cool gear. Billy, I've already got more on the way. I know you do too, but I had heard about Birddogs a number of times, but it's almost like when you get a car, like a new car, which not like I'm not out here rolling in dough. I've got a new car once in my life or twice. But then all of a sudden you notice that everybody has that car. It's like that kind of initial new feeling. Right after I kind of wore the Birddogs and saw where the logos were, the grocery store, everywhere I would turn, someone was in a jacket, in a t-shirt, in a shorts. So they took off in popularity without me knowing. So I'm getting on late on the bandwagon here, but I'm on it.
Yeah, so check them out, birddogs.com/tigers to get you your free Yeti tumbler when you order Birddogs. So, Shea, we're back on the rankings train here. Do you have, and I put in our rundown, a gripe, but I don't know if that's the right word I was looking for. But do you see anyone that jumps out at you right away in terms of an LSU target, a Louisiana kid, an LSU commit that maybe should be higher, should be lower even, if you want to go there? What's kind of your feel on some of the rankings? And I know we preface all this with saying we still have senior seasons, all-star games to go through. It's a lot more time left.
I'll give a couple. We talked about Joel Rogers already. Just a guy who plays quarterback, plays safety, does a bit of everything, and is kind of right inside that top 200 right now. I could see him, and I think we said he was the number 16 safety on 3. I could see him climbing into the top 10 or 12 safeties and maybe higher. I don't know, but I could see that being a range he gets into, which would make him, as you noted earlier, a top 150 prospect probably. Trey'Dez Green, their tight end, is already a top 150 prospect. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up a top 100 guy. If I'm looking around, I feel like I'm sticking to just Louisiana because I'm kind of so firm on that usually. But out-of-state commitments, you've got Andre Evans. He's a top 100 guy already. You've got Ethan Callaway. He's a top 100 guy already on 3. So I just look at what you can do kind of shuffling around in Louisiana. And I've said it before, I'm on the Juwan Johnson train right now. I know he's a 4-star, but I think he could be a top 300 guy, someone who could move up in the cornerback rankings. I think he's right outside the top 30 right now. I know he doesn't play corner, he plays quarterback, but we've seen him in camps enough and in 7-on-7 settings. He's a really, really good football player. So I'm betting on him. I think he could end up being a top 300 guy.
Yeah, there's a difference of like kind of where I maybe have a different opinion on a kid than some of the ranking staff or whatnot. And one of them that jumps out at me is Kalaj Cobbins at Destrehan. And he's committed to LSU. He's wreaked havoc the last 2 years there at a high level, just overall in terms of competition too. But his frame's kind of limited. I mean, he's 6'2.5". He's 212 pounds. He doesn't have plus length. He doesn't have incredible speed to play linebacker, especially. But he's just one of those high motor kids that always finds a way. And LSU wants to use him as Harold Perkins. And I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to be Harold Perkins. That's a generational athlete I think LSU has running around doing what he's done. But I just feel like, and maybe it'll happen after his senior year, but maybe just to move up into a 4-star range, even high on 300, or maybe just a non-on 300. Because the hard thing is when it comes down to the NFL draft, do we see them taking somebody like that who has plus length in, let's even say, the top like 6 rounds? It's just kind of a tough evaluation. He's a heck of a high school football player and could have a good career at LSU, but it's a really hard one that I'm struggling with.
Yeah, and the rankings obviously do project a lot towards the NFL and how you ultimately finish out your collegiate career, just because that's one way we've had Charles Power on before to talk about this, but that's the easiest way for them to quantify their recruiting rankings being right, is match it to where these guys are, projecting them 3 to 4 years down the line. With Cobbins, for me, it's kind of simple. Destrehan's one of the best programs in the state. Destrehan plays at a high level, Destrehan won a state title, and he was the best player on the team, arguably at least. That's good enough for me. If LSU and Bama and a number of other teams saw it and offered him, that's good enough for me there as well. So I do like Cobbins a good bit. I don't know if he's a day one guy, obviously, but someone that you can bring in the program. He develops, and then he finds a spot to which kind of really allows him to flourish. I'll also say, Billy, that I have heard now, gosh, probably 2 or 3. I'm assuming every school's doing this, though. But their linebackers or their coaches on defense are pitching to linebackers, we're going to use you in a Harold Perkins role. It's almost like that's the new pitch to a linebacker, no matter which school you're at, is, hey, you see how LSU uses Harold Perkins? That's what we want you for. It's tough to then realize that Perkins has generational, once in a decade type linebacker athleticism and instincts. You also need those to be Harold Perkins.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it a little bit, but that's how Harold Perkins got on the field. I mean, he was that good of an athlete that they just said, okay, fine, just go get after the quarterback, and we'll figure out the rest of it as we go. And so I'm a Kalaj Cobbins fan. I'm also interested to see if Devon Keys can move up a little bit when it comes to a guy who is out of state, maybe that can move up. I saw him working out alongside Damone Clark. Actually, last week I went out to their workout up here in Dallas. And look, I mean, Devon Keys, he's about 6 foot, little over 6 foot, about 205 pounds or so, maybe a little heavier than that. Damone Clark, measuring in around 6'3", 230 when he got out of LSU. He's somebody that lives in the weight room. He comes from a top program in Aledo. I think he has plus length compared to, obviously his body and height and things like that, which is good. He's tested fairly well. I want to see a little bit more quickness out of him as a senior in terms of what I would be looking for if I was on the rankings team. But you're looking at a guy who plays both ways too. I think in terms of maybe him earning his 4th star, that's a guy potentially to circle. I know Matt House and the Tigers are high on him. And he's one of those kids that just kind of is built a little differently as far as a mindset goes. He's always working. He's a power lifter too, ran track, and kind of did it all this summer. So he would be one of my out-of-state picks as far as the commits go that could move up too.
I'll give a non-commit, but someone that LSU fans hope does commit. I think Caden Durham could be one that when it's all settled, like right now, I think everybody just thinks of Caden Durham as one of the elite running backs in the country. Well, his actual ranking is just outside the top 100 and number 10 running back in the country. If he goes out and puts that speed on display that he did in Texas track all offseason on a Duncanville team that may not lose a game, is going to be playing a lot of high profile games, is going to be playing well into December or whenever the playoffs are in wrap up in the state of Texas, that you could look at it when it's all said and done, and he could be the number 5 running back in the country. I don't know the lay of the land with all 10 running backs, but that combination of size, speed, production, if he does that again for what could be the best, if not one of the best high school teams in the country, I'd have to think he's a top 100 prospect at the least, if not moving up more into the running back rankings higher than 10.
Yeah, Caden Durham sits there at 10 for On3. You look at that group, there's some quality running backs and also some in Texas. Caden Durham is very, very good. He sits as the number 2 running back in Texas behind, or number 3 running back in Texas right now behind Taylor Tatum and Kedron Young, who's committed to Notre Dame. I feel like Caden is, he's kind of like Clyde in a sense. Just in terms of that, first of all, compact build. I don't know what he runs in terms of the shuttle. I know Clyde was like right around a 4 flat, or maybe even a little lower. Was he like 3.9 or something like that? But Clyde was like a sick tester. I think he was like 34-inch vert or something too as a senior and a high 4.4. But I think Caden kind of is that similar type of prospect athletically, at least, and that's good enough for me too. I think in 2024, it's a smart move to go, Caden Durham or bust. He's that good. He was very, very productive for Duncanville. I'll go one more here, and then we'll let everybody go. But I think Kai Bates, and another one that LSU fans hope they get. I love Kai Bates. I think he's got a chance to be a really steady multi-year starter at the Power 5 level. We have him now were actually the second lowest on him, right? ESPN has him a little lower, but I just love his size. I don't know his length, which is something that maybe the rankings team is looking at as well. But when you look at 6'2", I think he carries 180 really well. I saw him at Under Armour Orlando, and I thought he was like 205. So however he's carrying it, it looks pretty good. And you've seen his offer list and schools after him explode. So I really like Kai Bates. I think he could be a top 100 type prospect when it's all said and done.
This is setting up for a lot of guys who LSU are going to finish with are the highest ranked guys that are going to end up in the class, which makes it entertaining. It's going to be a fun 5 months till signing day.
Yep. I will say this, out of the last few years, I think when we entered the fall last year, for example, what was it? Pimpton we were watching, maybe, not yet. I think he got offered in October or late September. Desmond Ricks, Javian Toviano.
Yeah. And then during the season, they offered and flipped Braithwaite and Dylan Carpenter.
Yep. And then DJ Chester jumped on board. I think this is, but like, I think this is much more intriguing this year in terms of how LSU could finish. They're also kind of hanging around with some high-end prospects. Colin Simmons, too. I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting, which is really what recruiting is overall.
5 months till signing day. A lot of action to go.
Yep. So be sure to be with us at thebengaltiger.com. Get your free Founders Club hat. I just helped a couple of guys get fresh ones. They couldn't figure it out, but it is, fairly easy. Just check out the instructions. Some people have different kind of browsers issues or whatever, but you can check out the instructions on the board or DM us, whatever. Get your free Founders Club hat and check it out at thebengaltiger.com. We're one of the top sites on 3 in terms of subscribers. And also, a quick reminder, guys, you can go to Big Game USA, use promo code BEON3, another cool new partner, and get the official game ball for LSU football this fall. So check it out. You get free shipping, get 10% off there, BEON3. And we appreciate you guys supporting Big Game USA. Garrett Nussmeier, Jaden Daniels all helped kind of design that ball for LSU this year. Joe Burrow's on the wall in there, and they have 2 LSU alums running it, their whole equipment department there. So pretty cool stuff. Shay, anything else?
Nothing.
All right.
I'm not trying to get wrapped up in a deflate gate here.
Yeah.
We got some trusted LSU guys running this.
Look. I mean, this one. I mean, you've got these extra laces.
Nice stitching.
Yeah. So that actually is like a customizable thing that some quarterbacks like. Some quarterbacks like it all the way around. So yeah, they've got Burrow right there on the wall when you walk in, playing with their ball. So, and he came in and designed his. So check them out. Get them right in time for football season.
Yeah, from footballs to clothes, we have you completely covered on this podcast.
Yeah, you can look good throwing around the LSU football in the yard or at the tailgate. So we'll be back with another edition of the podcast this week. So be sure to hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel or wherever you check out the Bengal Tiger podcast. For Shea Dixon, I'm Billy Embody. Thanks for listening. Check out birddogs.com/tigers, and we'll catch you next time.